I sold my house and put every dime that I have into crypto. I have bet literally everything that the top isn't in and that we're heading much, much higher going into 2026. In this video, I'll break down exactly why the market is currently dumping and why I think we'll see an end to it extremely soon. Why I have such deep conviction that the 4-year cycle is dead and this will be crypto's first ever 5-year cycle. And ultimately, why I think we're going much, much higher heading into 2026. Okay, so I posted this on X showing where I believe we currently are in the cycle. And I believe currently we are here in terms of the psychology of the market, and that the best and the biggest is still yet ahead, and that we're only just getting started. And basically, my belief is that since late 2022, this is what we've done so far. Just this. And this is the dip we're in right now. And this has been primarily driven by institutional structured bid. All of the ETF flows, all of the boomers, with their financial advisors buying Bitcoin via the ETF. That's what's been happening between late 2022 and today. It has not been primarily a retail FOMO, driven. I mean, it's boomer retail, but not the typical retail you see buying crypto. It has been institutional ETF bid pushing up the price of Bitcoin up until this point. And you see that where in mid-2023, we had BlackRock announce, oh my gosh, we're launching an ETF. Everyone's like, well, BlackRock's never going to get denied, so it's going to happen. And then it did happen. And then, you had a bunch of financial advisors, whatever, who can now find, for the first time, offer Bitcoin to their customers via this ETF wrapper. And a lot of boomers who are being told by Larry Fink and all these people on CNBC that Bitcoin's the future decided to allocate 1%, 2%, 3%, or whatever their portfolio. And that's been pushing up the price of Bitcoin ever since. But past cycles were not driven by institutional structured bid. This is the first time this ever existed. Past cycles were driven by huge pulses up in year-over-year liquidity. Just these massive macro environments where there was cheap credit, there was abundant liquidity, central banks were easing, and all that sloshed through the system, caused a retail mania, pushed everything out on the risk curve, and all these people showed up to buy crypto because there's a lot of money flowing through the systems. That's what happens. That happened in 1999 when the dot-com bubble, it happened in 2013, happened in 2017, happened in 2021. It has happened over and over and over again. This is the way cycles go. They go from tightening to easing to tightening to easing over and over and over again. It is like a psychological loop where you have abundant, cheap credit. A lot of people take out loans. Loans are a form of money creation. All this liquidity pulses into the system. People are buying stuff. Businesses are expanding. They're hiring. People are making more, so they're spending more. Everything gets crazy and out of control. And when things get crazy and out of control, the government steps in, central banks, policymakers, and they're like, oh my gosh, this is getting crazy and out of control. How are we going to fix this? Oh my gosh, I know what we can do. We can tighten things. Tightening is just another word for making everything suck. And when everything sucks, people are going to spend less money, business is going to hire less, people are going to take out less credit, and it's going to put the cap on things, calm people down. And that's exactly what it does. It puts the cap on things and calms people down. And that's exactly what they did post 2021. 2021, they went crazy. They went bananas with the money bazooka. Things got out of control. Markets got out of control. And then they tampered down on that. They hiked rates faster than they have in the last 40 years. And they, not just in the US, like globally, they just went bananas on easing, and then they went bananas on tightening. And what we saw is things collapsed all the way into 2022. And since 2022, we've been in this tightening phase. And you can see it right here on the ISM chart. Like, things have never gotten out of control since then. That it is not like the rest of history, okay? The rest of history is just like waves, okay? It just literally does all the way back since 1948. It just literally waves and waves and waves. We're just like, everyone's surfing the waves of the economy. And then 2022 is the first time in literally the history of this chart where things just kind of like flatline and die, and they never come back. And so where past cycles were driven by this huge burst up in year-over-year liquidity, a huge pulse up in the economy, abundant credit, businesses are booming, everything's going crazy. 2013, 2017, 2021, they all align with this. They all sync up with this perfectly. This cycle had none of that. Absolutely none of that. None of that was what has driven the cycle. It's been institutional structured bid. And a lot of people like to point out, well, okay, then why is the stock market all-time highs, genius? And I'll tell you exactly why the stock market's all-time highs. Primarily, the growth in the stock market has been driven by a handful of companies, driven by the narrative around AI, okay? And AI build out, AI CapEx, and all that kind of stuff. It's literally like a handful of companies driving all the stock market gains. The broader stock market sucks, okay? Companies have been sucking since 2022. They have been in probably a recession. We just don't call it that anymore because of weird political games or whatever, but things are not doing good under the surface for the broader economy. Case in point, just this year in 2025, 600 plus large US companies have gone bankrupt this year, the highest rate in 15 years. Wow, that doesn't seem like something that would be happening during a boom period, during a massive macro expansion. You literally don't ever see during an easing phase 600 plus large US companies go bankrupt, okay? Here's another one. Americans are defaulting at a crisis pace. Student loans, serious 90-day plus delinquencies are a record 14.3%. Auto loan delinquencies are the highest since 2010. Credit card delinquencies are at the near a 14-year high. Again, not things that typically happen during an easing cycle. These are things that happen during a tightening cycle. I've shown this chart way too many times, but this is the chart that I have to show people just kind of to jam it into people's heads. 2013, 2017, 2021, this is what's happened since, okay? We had these big old bursts in liquidity, and then there's a drought, okay? And a lot of this, okay, this has been our biggest burst so far. It's been like what's been happening lately. And a lot of this is driven by China. And guess what? All that liquidity in China has a really hard time making its way into the crypto market. China is a lot more closed off, and they're a lot more unfriendly when it comes to crypto. So there's a lot of liquidity maybe flushing in the system at this point, but it's not liquidity that can go into the market. So it really has been just a total drought since 2022. And basically things got drastically worse in 2025 when Trump and Bessent decided, hey, we're going to front load all the pain so we can see the gain on the other side. And in their viewpoint, they're like, hey, the economy needs some medicine. Nobody likes to take medicine, so we're going to shove it into their mouths up front. And then later when we need to get reelected, they'll probably forget that we put the medicine in, and things will be doing good because they're happy and healthy. That's basically their policy stance. I've listened to so many podcasts from Scott Bessent. He has said it over and over again, front load the pain, front load the pain, front load the pain. That's what they did. They did crazy tariffs and all kinds of other just craziness in 2025. With the plan of pivoting in 2026 to midterms mode and getting that economy to run hot. And so in 2025, it's been abysmal, okay? We had all the tariff madness. We had the TGA rebuild that happened at the same time the RRP ran down to zero, which is just basically the RRP was like a big old liquidity buffer keeping us safe. And as soon as it hit zero, it's like your shields went down on your Starship, okay? And it's like every shot fired now is like sending stuff flying. There's holes in the side of your hull, and things are getting crazy. So that happened. You had the step up in issuance on top of that. On top of that, you had the longest government shutdown in history. And a lot of people are like, oh, that's so stupid. Like, why would you say the government has anything to do with crypto? And they literally don't even understand the argument. Let me make this really, really clear. The government is the single biggest spender in the US. Like, they spend so much money. What do you think they're printing all that money for? They print it to spend it, okay? And when they spend it, that's liquidity going into the economy. And when you just randomly shut down the government and there's no more spending happening, like the biggest faucet gets turned off, the liquidity dries up. And that liquidity matters, okay? That's real money going out to employees and people and businesses, and that money flows through into the markets. Like, not all of it, obviously, but some of that flows into the markets and keeps it afloat. And when that tap's turned off, after this massive TGA rebuild, after all these tariffs all year, after the RRP runs down to zero, after the step up in issuance, things get pretty bad pretty quick, which is exactly what we saw. And so my whole thing was, okay, when the government shutdown ends, liquidity can rebuild. And I posted this before the government shutdown had ended. I said liquidity won't heal until the shutdown ends and the government ramps up spending again. This won't happen overnight. It takes time for liquidity to work its way through the pipes. Remember, this is a plumbing issue. And basically my point was, because literally everyone always likes to be like, oh, you said the shutdown was over, like the day it's over, and they're like expecting price to pump, but that's not how it works. Liquidity doesn't magically teleport into the market. Liquidity is, somebody shows up at work, they have to run payroll, they have to get the systems booted back up. Things haven't been open for 40 days plus. And, they got to figure out how to log back in, get everything organized, and then they got to start sending payroll out. And then the payroll is going to take time, and bank transfers got to happen. People got to get that deposited into their accounts, and then they got to go spend it. Okay, so like all these things take time. It doesn't happen instantaneously. It's just like now the process can start healing, and those things are slowly working their way in. And then I said after that, we also have a massive data dump coming when everything reopens, and if that data is poor, you can expect us to retest lows again. And what happened with this is because the government wasn't open all of October, you essentially had none of this data being collected. All the people that are paid to collect it weren't at work because the government was shut down. And they do all these surveys and different things for data that they weren't doing. And now they're basically saying that the data is unrecoverable because they didn't do the surveys and they can't go back and do the surveys, so they don't have any way to get the data. We are talking about the government. They're not like the most efficient bunch, out there. And so because of that, markets started freaking out. They're like, oh, we're not gonna get the data. That's crazy. And so markets started melting down. And then a bunch of Fed members came out and said, hey, you know what? We're not gonna cut rates. And the reason we're not gonna cut rates is because we don't think we should or that we need to. And we don't have the data we need to. And this freaked people out. Then markets started repricing, and crypto started like aggressively repricing because we've had these 3 months of just downward price action. Crypto's really reflexive to liquidity. On top of the 4-year cycle, just fear and all this other stuff, and things just started melting down really quick. And that's where we've primarily seen this move down all the way down to $92,000 in Bitcoin right now. And I really like this post from Hunter Horsley where he says, here's what I see happening on 4-year cycles. Come in view, people believe in 4-year cycles, and then 2026 will thus be a down year for Bitcoin. First order effect, people sell in 2025 to avoid the down market year. Second order effect, the 2025 sellers cause 2025 to be a down year, thus breaking the 4-year cycles. Third order effect, 2026 is open season, 4-year cycles broken. We have seen a huge amount of selling pressure from people that believe in the 4-year cycle, just adding accelerant on top of what was already like a pretty insane situation. And I know I'm literally one of the last guys left who is still saying we're going way higher into 2026. And I don't care because I'm telling you, I have literally everything I've invested in the market. Like I'm not like taking this half-hearted. I don't do any ads or sponsored content on my channel. I have to be right about that. If I am wrong about this, like I'm literally going to burn my entire reputation, and I'm going to burn like every dime that I have. Okay, so I take this very seriously. I'm not just like making random stuff up to feel good about myself. I really believe we are right here. We are at the disbelief stage, and that this is what's ahead. And I believe this is ahead because, as I've been saying, there is so much ammo left to burn. Like, even if you believe, okay, so some people believe right now that the stock market's in a bubble because of AI, right? Because, as I said, AI is driving all the gains. So, like, oh my gosh, it's a bubble, and it's 1999, and next year's 2000, and it's gonna be horrible. Oh my gosh, and you know what, like. Maybe they're right. Like maybe we are in a bubble, but my whole point is it's not going to end now. If we're in a bubble, it is not time for this bubble to be over. There's no reason this bubble can't go to 2026, 2027, 2028. And the reason I believe this is because we've been in a tightening cycle, which means all the ammo that's saved up for the easing cycle has not been spent yet. And that's the way these cycles work. The Fed still has a lot more room to cut rates. We haven't even ended QT yet. We're going to end that in December. But from there, we still have a lot of room in terms of expanding the balance sheet. And globally, this is the case. Like globally, there's still just a lot more room to ease than say like the height of 2021, there was no more room left. Like they did it all. Rates were at zero. They were expanding like mad. Inflation was getting out of control. Their hand was forced. Like even if things got really bad, they couldn't do anything because there was no more runway left. That's not the case today. We have so much runway left. And what do you think? Like the stock market starts crashing, the Max 7 starts crashing. What do you think they're going to do? Like, especially going into midterms in 2026, like what do you think Trump's going to do? Like he's not going to let that happen. Like pure and simple, they will intervene. This is just like so it's absurdly obvious. So even if we were in a bubble, like it literally doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if we were in a bubble or not. And I really like this post from the Kabasi letter saying, current situation. The U.S. is preparing $2,000 stimulus checks. Japan is preparing a $110 billion stimulus package. China is approved a $1.4 trillion stimulus package. The Fed is officially ending QT on December 1st. The U.S. is issuing $1.9 trillion in treasuries per year. Canada is restarting its quantitative easing program. Global M2 money supply is at a record $137 trillion. And global rate cuts are at 320 plus over the last 24 months. This is the start of a global easing cycle, not the start of a global tightening cycle. And his ending point is in what world is another wave of inflation not on its way, which actually is something I want to highlight. The whole reason we're in this situation right now is because inflation became like this big bag boogeyman post 2021, where everyone was afraid that anything that happened would cause this huge reacceleration of inflation. And so like everyone was afraid to do anything. The Fed's like, we're not going to do anything. We're just going to sit on our hands and do nothing because who knows what'll happen with inflation? Who knows what's going to happen with, these tariffs are going to send inflation out of control. And like, it's like, where is that? You've been saying that for years. Like, where's the inflation that you've been so afraid of? Like, it's just not showing up. My point is that they let it become such a big boogeyman in their mind because of what happened in 2021, which is a really unique circumstance. Coordinated global easing at the most insane scale we've ever seen, coupled with like massive shipping issues, caused like a massive spike in inflation. And so that's kind of blinded everyone from like doing what they should be doing, which is what they should be cutting rates right now. Things are not looking hot, okay? Beneath the surface, there's a lot of cracks forming. Anyway, the point is we are on the path to recovery in terms of liquidity. That is starting to heal. Trump and Bassett have flipped into midterms mode. They're going to do a lot of stimulative policies going into 2026 because they want to win the election. They don't want to lose. Central banks have been in tightening mode for way too long, and it's now time for them to flip into easing mode. They really don't have a choice about it because the system forces their hand as cracks start to form in the system. And I genuinely believe we are right here in terms of the market cycle, and this is going to be us in late 2026. Although I always say the 5-year cycle, that is kind of just a meme when I say that. I say that because 4-year cycle, 5-year cycle, whatever. But as I said, like I don't know for sure that it ends in 2026. Like I'll say for sure we're heading way higher into 2026. But I will say it could go to 2027, 2028. Like I don't know. I'll wait and see kind of what the policies that get into place in terms of like stimulus and all that kind of stuff, easing, etc. And we'll have to keep an eye on inflation and kind of when those policies run out of runway or get close to running out of runway, and that's when the party's over. But I won't cap it on for sure late 2026. All I'm saying is, as of right now, that's the current setup, and it's my belief that we're right here. That's it. That's my belief. I have not wavered. I have not faltered. I've been saying this for literally a year now. I've been saying it when things are good. I've been saying it when things are bad, and I've been saying it right now when things are abysmally bad, and I'm pretty much one of the only people left saying it. As always, none of this is investment advice. None of this is me telling you to invest in anything. Obviously not your financial advisor, and you should always do your own research. If this video was helpful, make sure to hit that like button. And if you want to see more videos like this, make sure to hit that subscribe button and the little bell next to it to be notified each time I release a new video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week.